channel, guys. I'm about to get some propagation started because I am constantly always trying to save a dying plant or trying to make more plants out of one, right? Because you can never have too many. So I'm about to get a propagation started using sphagnum moss. It's a fairly new method to me. I did try it once with my string of turtle cuttings and it was super successful. I started seeing roots come in like on the second or third day. So I was really happy with those results. So I want to try it on a different plant and hopefully get the same results, you know, quick growth. So right here I have a piece of my Philodendron Brasil that wasn't doing so well. It's on the verge of, I don't know, completely drying out. Looks like this stem was kind of, I don't know, maybe pulled out of the pot and I don't know, it just wasn't getting water. So what I'm gonna do is chop this guy up into little pieces and we're gonna set it up in a tray with sphagnum moss and hopefully we get some results real fast. All right, so just to mention all the materials I'm gonna need for this little project here. Obviously, I have some sphagnum moss, long fibered sphagnum moss that's been soaking in filtered water for about 24 hours now. So I've got that going. Obviously, you want your little plant here. Today I'm working with the philodendron. So you're gonna want your plant to, obviously, you're trying to propagate. And then what I'm using here is like an old plastic container that used to hold like, I don't know, a salad. I don't know. So an old plastic clear container and then a large plastic bag large enough for me to put my container into. So those are just a couple things you're gonna need and just some scissors too. Clean, sharp scissors. It's always important to disinfect them with like rubbing alcohol just to prevent spread of germs and disease from one plant to another. All right, let's get going. So first thing I wanna do is I wanna prep my little plants here. I wanna cut them up into the pieces that I am going to propagate. I'm gonna cut it up into a lot of small plants instead of one large plant, right? So I just wanna show you how and where I'm gonna choose to cut my plant. So if you've noticed these little bumps here, those are nodes and those are where our new growth is gonna come from. So every time we trim a piece off, we want at least, you know, one of these pieces to be connected so it has somewhere to grow from. Okay. All right, so first thing, we're gonna cut up our plant into smaller pieces just so they can grow into their own plants. I just wanna point out exactly where and how I choose where I'm gonna cut. If you see these little bumps here, those are nodes and those are where all of our new growth is gonna come from. So I'm gonna cut up the plant to where at least each piece has their own node. Let's chop this baby up. So each little leaf has its own little root system. And if we do something right, each little guy will have their own roots. So I just want to show you, this one didn't have a leaf. I'm going to move on to the next one. So it does have its own leaves, just so it has some vessel, or I don't know how to explain it. But so it has a leaf to absorb sun and nutrients, right? Because it have a hard time doing it with just a stem. So I don't know all the scientific stuff, but you know what I mean. it needs something to help it absorb. Did I just mess up? No, we're good. We're good. I think we're good. Okay. See, these are really thirsty. I don't know if these are gonna come back, but we're gonna try that. All right, so looky here. So I have a bunch of tiny plants now. Bunch of little plants. Now let's get them into their tray so we could get them rooted and get our plant growing ASAP. All right, so now that our plant is chopped up into pieces, we're gonna set up our little sphagnum moss bed. So here's my little to-go tray and my sphagnum moss that's been soaking for 24 hours in filtered water. So what I'm gonna do is grab a handful of the moss and wring out any excess water. You want your moss wet, but you don't want it soggy, so excess water, and then lay it out into a bed. Even layer. Doesn't need to be super duper thick, but you want it to be, you know, thick enough to where the roots have somewhere to grow down into. So, I don't know, maybe like a quarter of the way up of your container. A quarter to a third, I'd say. So, let's use the rest of this. Make a nice, light, fluffy bed. And once we have our moss set up, we're gonna lay our babies out. So yes, I'm excited to try this method again. I tried it one time, like I'd mentioned before, with my string of turtles, and they started growing so fast. They're actually still in the moss. I should transfer them over to soil soon, but it's just so fun to watch them grow this way too. So, all right, excess water. Okay, so we have a nice layout bed here for our BBs. Now I'm just gonna lay them out in one layer. Make sure maybe there's space between all of the plants so there's room to breathe as well. Alright, so just to point out, you kind of want your little nodes touching the moss or like reaching for the moss. So I'm gonna do my best to kind of have those, I don't know, kind of touching. And hopefully there's enough room for all of these guys too. But I don't know if you could tell, leaves are kind of like flimsy, so it's definitely thirsty. It wasn't properly drinking water. So see, this guy's so thirsty, but hopefully he'll come back. So yeah, I just want to make sure each piece of plant with the node, you want the node maybe facing down or reaching for the moss. Super quick and easy way to start a propagation, and it's not quite as messy as soil. So I like this. We'll see how this goes, and I don't know, I might continue using this as a propagation method. So okay, all the babies are tucked away in their new home, temporary home, until they have nice long roots, and then we can maybe add it back to the mama plant, or I don't know, start its own pod of its own. So once your babies are all laid out, next step is to grab your clear plastic bag. You're gonna place your tray of propagations in the bag. All right, so this is gonna act as a greenhouse for our plants. It's gonna hold in moisture and humidity and warmth, and all those things are important for root starting. So she's tucked away in her new home. All of our babies, they're in their new home, temporary new home. I'm gonna zip up the bag, but not all the way. You want a little bit of a hole just so there's some type of air circulation and ventilation. So some people like to poke holes, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm just gonna leave a hole in the corner and then just check on it every now and then. This tray is gonna sit on a windowsill facing east. It gets a lot of all-day great sun, not super strong sun, and it stays nice and warm as well. So let's get these guys set under the window and check on them, I don't know, maybe a week. Guys, thanks for watching my video. Thanks for watching me start my Philodendron Brasil propagations. I hope you enjoyed, maybe learned a little something, and hopefully you'll come back and check on these guys for their updates. Bye guys.